Well, hello and welcome to Digital Influence. Today I'm interviewing Robert Coorey, who's written an awesome book for marketing focused at small business, and it's called How to Feed a Starving Crowd. So welcome, Robert. Great to have you
Th-
here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So I was just saying to Robert, I downloaded his book a couple of weeks ago when I was on holidays in Bali, and it was surprisingly fun reading for holiday reading. It's very technical in a way, Robert, the stuff you're talking about, but you make it really accessible to people with very applied stories. Um, what did you want to help people achieve? What's the goal of the book?
Yeah, look, there's two goals of the book. The first one is to find your starving crowd in the first place. So, like, if you're going to launch a new product or service, is there a group of people out there who are starving to buy it, and how do we find them, and where are they? So that's step one. And then once we've found that starving crowd, then the next step is then, well, how do we feed them? Like, where do we, how do we advertise to them? How do we monetize it? How do we scale that up? And so that's pretty much the two parts of the book. It's finding the starving crowd in the first place and then scaling up in the second place.
That's great. And the information in the book, it's really practical with examples from huge success stories from the real business world, and it's backed by your experience running a web marketing company, isn't it? You're involved in. Tell us more about your business.
Yeah, sure. So a lot of the results that I got was when I was working at one of Australia's top marketing agencies. So I was a senior executive there. I had my own division within that business, and we ran some fantastic campaigns. And then from there, I started to document these campaigns that were going so well. Like, for example, we almost broke the world webinar. Sorry, we almost broke the world record for the most number of people in a webinar. I put 40,000 people to get registered for live events in the space of 2 years. Some really good results like that. And then I decided to document those results within the book. And so that went really well. And now the book's been so successful that Feed a Starving Crowd is its own company. So I've got my book, and I run some workshops, and I do like public speaking, and I've got some training courses as well on all those topics.
Terrific. And who are your customers mostly, or who's the book aimed at, and how do people know that they should read it? If I'm a business owner?
Yeah, it's mostly business owners, and we do have a fair few marketers who buy it as well. So people who are like marketing consultants, marketing professionals, they tend to enjoy it because they want to stay at the cutting edge of what strategies are working right now, so they can do that for their clients.
Terrific. Yeah, that's very much how I read it, looking to apply it with my clients, but also in my own business. And yeah, really inspiring. Like they're kind of breakthrough success stories in many ways. So I guess we should add that the results might not be typical, but yeah, very inspiring stuff, and gives you out of the box approaches to marketing rather than just thinking, oh, I'll do the same as I've always done. There's some really innovative approaches there. With your new company, what sort of people do you work with?
Similar audience as well. So like, yeah, small business owners, and more like the most people that want to engage me as a consultant are like the small business owners or medium business owners. The marketers more prefer like just to look at my training courses or my book for information there.
Terrific. Well, one of the things I loved about the book was the range of topics that you cover. So it's broken into a set of chapters with a series of case studies in each chapter, and they really get very detailed, whether it's about naming your business or identifying that crowd and using different marketing strategies. In thinking about writing a book, it sounds like this was a really natural format because you had these case studies. If you were to write another book, would you go about it the same way, or a lot of
I thought that the case studies were really good because the case studies, it showed real life examples of things that are working right now rather than just airy fairy fluff. Like, so there's nothing in there saying you should start a Facebook page or you should start a blog or anything like that. It's no general advice. It's all very specific. It's like, these people did this marketing strategy, this is how it worked, and this is exactly the steps they took to make it happen.
Mm-hmm. Terrific. And in terms of applying this themselves, should people sort of pick up the book and get straight to it, or what are the steps they should take first, or should they already be at a certain point in their marketing, like have a website or have that Facebook page? what level of?
Yeah, so the book's very carefully designed so that no matter what stage of business that you're at, you can take the book and run with it. So even if you're working at a full-time job and you're thinking about starting your own business, you can go through chapters 1 and 2 and get this all started without having to spend any money on advertising. So you can test you can test your new idea out before you've even quit your job, which is great because the last thing you want to do is quit a good corporate job, have no money coming in for 6 or 12 months and still trying to work this out. So the best time to do it is as a side project, like outside of work hours, if you're just getting started. Alternatively, if you've got an existing business, again, you can apply these same strategies and find out if you sell a new product or service, will it be successful? So things like that.
Fantastic. And I'm interested in the book writing process because a lot of our listeners have their own plans to write a book or they've written a book. So for you, you've obviously been through the experience of writing and then marketing a book, because the marketing is almost as big a job as the writing, and you've got a whole chapter on books. Can you expand on that a bit more? Because I think I'd love to hear great ways to market your book or tips for writing.
Yeah, so we've got a whole chapter on that inside the book. And generally speaking, so what you need to do to get the book done the fastest is to really consolidate your thoughts into different lessons that you want to share. So with my book, like I learned this from my book coach, Patrick Snow. So he said, Rob, like when you're writing your book's 100 lessons, like 100 lessons that you want to teach people. And that's what your book is. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And then you put those lessons into like related chapters and then you go from there. And I'm like, wow, that's just so much better, than the way that I was going to do it before. So if you think about your book as lessons, then that's an easy way to make it happen. The second thing that I did was to get it out there, like I did a pretty intense book launch. So I wanted a 5-star book launch for 300 people, but I had a 1-star budget. So what I did with that was I got a really good venue in the city. They were very generous in sponsoring me. So they gave me the venue for free, but I had to pay for the cost price for like the food and drinks. So they weren't out of pocket. And the benefit for them was that they got access to 300 business owners and executives, so which is their target market. So that was a win-win. And then I got some sponsorship from my accountant, so that was really good as well. And so I was able to make a really good quality launch by using sponsors instead of having to pay out of my own pocket.
Terrific, and that's very much a theme in the book is getting amazing 5-star results with a 1-star budget. There's lots of sort of guerrilla marketing tactics and low cost or free marketing tactics using sort of PR or viral strategies. So that's a bonus for business owners to think, oh look, I'd love to do this, but it must all be expensive. The book is very much geared toward getting big results on a low budget, which is great.
That's the idea, because I suppose a lot of small businesses just haven't got big budgets. It's just the way that if they had big budgets, they'd be a big business. So that's why it's geared. So it's like no matter what your budget is, it's like 3/4 of the book requires 0 advertising budget to implement. So that's really helpful. Even if you're a small business just getting started, there's a lot of things you can do that don't cost any money at all.
Yeah, awesome. And most of them are things that they can do themselves, or with the help of their existing team, rather than sort of needing to come to you for. If people do want to go further with you, what sort of services do you offer? It sounds like you have some consulting services. What if I needed a hand, what could I expect from you?
Yes, I've got an online course which is available 24/7. That goes into a lot of the concepts in a lot more detail. I run private workshops, so they're about once a month, where I get 10 business owners in a room and we all get together. So they're really good. I call them intensives. And I've got a few private consulting clients where I help them with their marketing.
Fantastic. Now, launching this was obviously a huge undertaking. So the book launch event per se is one thing, but when you're launching a product, of course, there's planning and the build up. And again, there's a whole chapter on product launches as well. Can you tell us more about how I'd go about launching an online course, for example, which you've obviously done?
Yeah, so there's a whole chapter on this in the book. And essentially, the first time that I did this, what I did was to run a webinar on the topic. So before I even built the online course, I ran a webinar that talked about the online course and then sold the online course before I even built it. And I said, look, the course is coming in 2 weeks' time. These are the things that it's going to include. This is what it costs. And if you'd like to buy it, here's where you can go buy it. And so I got, I think it was 8 buyers for that very first course that I ran at $1,000 each. So just under $8,000 revenue. And what I found is that was great because that validated that there was a market for this and they were happy to buy it. Now, if I built that course, say I spent 3 months building that course and then tried to sell it and nobody bought it, that would have been a real waste of time.
Yeah, for sure. Now, are there any sort of favorite sections or chapters or lessons that are in there? What's your pick of the stories that's a good retell?
Yeah, well, one of the stories that I love is the story of the starving crowd itself. So Gary Halbert was a big mentor of mine. He's passed away, unfortunately, but he said, if you were running a hamburger stand and I was running a hamburger stand, the one advantage he'd like to have over you is a starving crowd. And I thought, wow, that's such a great analogy, because when I reflected back on my different businesses that I've run and businesses I've worked in, things like that, every single time I was feeding a starving crowd, that's when business was a lot easier. And every time I thought that I was really smart and would educate the market on what they should do, then that's when it was tough. So the goal is really to be feeding the starving crowd, like giving the crowd what they already want.
Terrific. Now, that's obviously how the name of the book came about. You've got a whole chapter on naming as well, and there's some really practical tips in there. Can you give us some broad overviews of naming? Because I think that's a fascinating one. A lot of people listening might be looking at launching a business, or perhaps they're looking at naming a product or a course. How do we go about coming up with a name that's going to get our customers' attention and help to sell our product or service?
Yeah, look, what I found, especially in like the course kind of industry, is to tell what the promise of the course is in the title. So instead of trying to get too fancy with names and branding and things like that, like if you're selling a course, explain what the benefit is that the people will get. So it's like, you know, how to double your sales in 10 days or whatever, however long it takes or whatever that promise is. But it's more about if you can show like what the user will achieve as a result of doing the course, that's better than saying, you know, marketing strategy 101. So that's what generally works better with courses. In terms of like startups and tech companies and things like that, like I've never been an expert in naming them, like Uber or Yahoo or things like that. So I think there's a science behind that, but I don't know what it is.
Cool. And so let's say we're writing our course now to run our webinar and sell it in advance. What do we do after we've got a name? You know, what should we be putting in the tagline or calls to action? How can you expand more on the copy or the messaging around products for marketing?
Yeah, sure. So what I normally find is that if you're working in a competitive market, so like, you know, business education or health or weight loss or fitness or real estate, so very competitive long-term markets, what you need to do is to make claims that haven't been made before. So if I say, for example, if I'm working in the weight loss market and I say my Facebook ad, you know, free report reveals how to lose 5 kilograms. Well, people have seen that claim before and no one's really going to click on that. So because it's a competitive market, we need to make a bit of curiosity involved with that claim. So we might say, how to lose 5 kilograms by eating more cake, you know, or something like that. So of course it has to be true. Like, so if you can't do that, then obviously you can't claim that. But assuming that you can do that, then that's great. That means that you can do it, it works, and it's something that you can claim. So when we're in competitive markets, we need claims that are slightly different to what everybody else is doing.
Terrific. Well, I know you've got to go soon, so we'll move toward wrapping it up. But where can people get in contact with you, and where can they learn more about your book? Or do you have a preview chapter or anything that people can download?
Yeah, best place to get it is feedastarvingcrowd.com. And we actually offer a free copy of the book, and all you have to do is pay $9 for shipping anywhere around the world. Fantastic.
So a free book there, just pay for your shipping. And the course, you can find more about the course and get in touch with you yourself there.
It's all online.
All right, fantastic. Well, thanks again, Robert. I'd love to have another chat to you sometime. It's there's heaps in the book, and really you could do a whole webinar on any of the topics in the book. Fascinating stuff, a very easy and fun read, and definitely good inspiration for anyone who's looking to plow into marketing their own business. Do you have any sort of final words of motivation or inspiration for people trying to make an impact online?
Get into it. Make it happen. Get into it.
Yeah, terrific. All right, thanks again, Robert, and
Okay.
thanks for listening to Digital Influence, everyone. We'll see you next time.
See you soon.